Hey, it's Cliff, and I kind of mentioned in my last video that I wanted to kind of move away from the cryptocurrency topics and get into real estate a little bit. So I saw this article today, and I kind of cemented my beliefs of how I want to change my portfolio a little bit. So let me go ahead and bring this article up here. And so the title says, SEC charges Do Kwon Terraform with fraud in connection with Terra collapse. And the bullet points, the key points that are actually here, says, the SEC charged Terraform and its CEO Do Kwon with defrauding investors. Kwon and Terraform perpetuated a multi-billion-dollar fraud against investors as part of marketing of the Terra USD and Luna coins, which collapsed in May of 2022. That's kind of the point that I'm getting at here with the video. I understand that cryptocurrency, it's not a regulated market, it's high risk, high reward, but when it comes down to the SEC, it's like they're not even trying. It's so bad. Like, this massive collapse that happened in the crypto market happened almost a year ago, and they're just now getting around to doing something about it. It's just so bad. When I think of the SEC, I kind of think of that South Park episode where they had the cop who was pretending to be a lady of the evening and was getting clients in the cars, if you know what I'm saying, and then actually going through with the deed. And then once the deed was over, he would jump out and he would say, freeze, and arrest them from there. It's like, guys, you're almost a year after all of this happened, and you're just now forming a case to actually, to me, I'm still an investor of crypto. I still like crypto. I still continue to invest in crypto. I just want to shift my portfolio a little bit from the really high risk investments, because that's what crypto is. It's a high risk investment with hopefully receiving high returns for taking on that high risk. But I just kind of want to shift my portfolio to real estate, because that's something that I don't have in my portfolio. I'm pretty heavily invested in stocks and 401ks, and I have my crypto for sure. But one thing that I haven't ventured out to is real estate. That's something I didn't have any knowledge of, and that's something that I've been researching to kind of, learn a little bit about it, so maybe I could potentially make some money there. So Cliff, how are you actually going about learning real estate? And one of the things that I've been picking up is this company called BiggerPockets. They do a lot of different educational videos on real estate for people that are trying to get into this market to potentially make some money. So the first thing that I did is I picked up two of their books. This is the first one that I picked up. Let me get in the camera. Right there. So this one is How to Invest in Real Estate, The Ultimate Beginner's Guide to Getting Started. And so I read this, and so don't get me wrong, this book is good, but it is very basic knowledge of real estate. And as it says in the title, it's the ultimate beginner's guide to getting started, right? I didn't realize it was so surface level. Like, some of the chapters in here, one of them was like creating a budget and setting yourself out of sight of debt and preparing yourself to actually take on a rental property or a house or things like that. And, if you're watching my channel, you probably don't need help putting together a budget. You're someone that's actually into finance, or if you're me reading this book, I don't need help with a budget. So some of this was kind of very surface level, almost a waste of time for someone like me, but that doesn't make this book bad, because it's still just it's helping the beginners out, like it was saying in the book. So if you need something that's more like foundational, this book is good. It's not bad, but personally, I would skip over this one if you're a little bit more educated on finances. So the second book I got was this one from them. And it is the book on rental property investing. And so honestly, I should have just bought this one. I should have just jumped into it. You can see there's a lot more knowledge in this one. It's quite thicker than the other one. You can kind of compare them here. Yeah, it's like almost double the size. So yeah, and for me personally, like, I kind of knew what I wanted. So that's another reason why this didn't help me, right? So I was going into this with the thought of, I want a rental property that I can buy and hold. That's pretty much what I do for all my investments. I'm a buy and hold kind of guy. You're not going to see me like trading stocks or even trading crypto. You know, I'm someone who holds pretty much for the most part. I just invest in dollar cost average and keep it going. So with me being a buy and hold investor, I pretty much already knew what I wanted out of my investing strategy. I was going to buy rental properties when I could and gain wealth through the 4 advantages that rental property actually gives you, which is loan pay down, tax breaks, appreciation, and cash flow. So that was already my strategy, and that's why this one didn't really help me over here, but this one certainly did, because this kind of goes into actually how you're going to buy your properties and how you're going to get a loan. You know, what kind of loans could you get? Do you want to do 1031 exchanges to level up your properties when you're selling them off eventually? You know, that kind of thing. There was actual strategies in this book and not just surface level knowledge. So if you're going to get a BiggerPockets book, I like this one. It's pretty good. Yeah, it definitely was worth the time reading it. So pretty much most of the common questions are going to be in a book like this. Things like, do I need a LLC to get into real estate investing? You know, is that something that I need to structure my assets so I don't have a tenant fall down and break his leg and he takes all my money? They talk about the BRRRR strategy, which is just basically like buying a cheaper property and fixing it up so you can kind of flip it and keep that cycle going to make money. But kind of helps you dealing with contractors, and also it gets into actually managing your properties towards the end of this. There is another version after this book where it is the book on, like, what do they call it, managing rental properties or something like that, and that's a pretty good book too if you're already actually having rental properties and you're really into it at that point. But for finding properties, I thought this was a good book. I mean, I recommend it. It's pretty good. But just reading a book like this is not really useful if you don't actually apply the information. So one of the things that I've been working on is making my own real estate calculator so I can kind of analyze the property. So let me bring that up. So what I do want to say about this calculator is I have not finished it. This is just a visual representation of it. I have not put in the formulas that are going to make using a calculator like this so much easier. But, you know, I'm working on it in my spare time. I'm kind of getting to it. Another thing that I'm running into is calculating things like insurance, because I am someone who moves around a lot. I don't know, am I going to buy a property where I'm currently living? Am I going to buy one wherever I go? And how are these rates going to change? So it's something I have to consider when I'm making a calculator like this, because maybe they won't have 5% vacancies when you're doing these formulas. It just really depends. So I'm kind of still strategizing how I want this calculator to look, but this is the bare bones of what I'm gonna have in this calculator. So how this should work, I'm gonna have the property cost over here, and then it's going to calculate the annual tax for me and a formula here, and the insurance and the vacancy and the repairs, right? And so that should be able to come over here to this monthly expenses calculator where it'll do the taxes for me by the month, as well as the insurance. If I want to add in electric or sewer or garbage, it really just depends on the property. Is that something that I would want my tenant to pay, or is that something that is included in the rent? It really just depends, but I want the option in here that, you know, if someone's using this calculator, they can kind of go in and add in what they need. So it'll calculate vacancy. I have repairs in here as well, capital expenditures to keep up on the property maintenance, and I will need to go to a mortgage calculator to input the mortgage cost. And then we also have water in here, and this will total out all the monthly expenses. So it'll be an easy way to calculate all this up. Now, what I want to do up here is I'll also have the monthly income. So I should know like how much rent will actually come in from this property. If you get into like an apartment complex, or you can have a laundromat, is there gonna be storage that you're also getting? And then there's miscellaneous expenses. Maybe there's something else that you wanna add, and that should be outputted here, right? So that should be able to take you to the middle of the chart where Your expenses will be populated in this category from monthly expenses, and then your income will be from the monthly income, and that'll calculate your cash flow, right? So the way I'm doing this is once you fill in all the different tables, it should be easy and just it calculates everything for you, right? That's the plan. So then you get your cash flow, right? And that should give you an idea of how much money you would be able to make off of a property per month, right? And then in the center here, this is kind of something that I did separate just to get you an idea of if a property is actually worth buying or not, right? So you have a down payment in here, you have your closing costs, your rehab costs. If you want to add something else, that's your missed costs, and you should be able to calculate the total cash on cash return within this right here, right? And it should also have the cash flow, and I want it to calculate the ROI and the return as a percentage. So you can kind of look at the different properties and say, oh yeah, this is like a 12% return. Is this good enough for me? You know, and then also if you're like me, when I'm looking at these properties, I'm not finding properties that are really have a cash flow or they have just a good cash flow or cash on cash return, right? So I want to be able to use this middle box to adjust the down payment to see the break-even point of if the property is worth buying at certain costs. So if you really want this property, maybe you put a bigger down payment to get it to actually cash flow, and this is the amount that you need to put down on said property, right? So yeah, this is just the basic structure that I have so far. I don't have any formulas in. As you can see, it's going to be pretty difficult to input median annual taxes, you know, because it's different everywhere you go. So it's really going to depend on the location that I actually want to move to. You know, we typically move every 4 to 7 years or so, and it just depends on where we go next on how this calculator is actually going to work. I'm going to eventually put this calculator on my Patreon. If you guys want it, just send me a message on there and I will send it to you. I just want to talk about how I'm studying up on real estate to try and get some knowledge that I can apply and actually pursue this maybe in a year or two, depending on how much it takes to get a good down payment and actually find a property that is worth buying, right? So thank you to my Patreon supporter, Kevin, and thank you guys for watching.